Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Speaking Legally, where the legal meets the cultural. My name is Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. It's a pleasure to greet you once again. And I'm here with our co-hosts, Edward Pichardo, Esquire, and Royce Russell, Esquire, who's still dancing from our intro. But welcome to the show today. Thank you for being here. We have a lot to get in. And Ed, we missed you.
And I missed all of you. Once again, Ed Pichardo, Eduardo Pichardo, encantado. Hello, everyone. I really missed you guys. But, I had to go away for some, real reasons. I had to bury my father's ashes in the Dominican Republic. He passed away from the pandemic, so we were able to successfully do that. I got to experience some of what's going on in Dominican Republic in terms of the COVID. It's really bad. In fact, right after I left, I think a day later, they imposed another 45-day period of restrictions.
Wow.
You have to be in before 5 p.m. If not, you could get arrested if you're out unless you have some special permission. So I think it's like from 7 a.m. or something like that till 5 p.m. And unless you have a permitted or reason to be out or a real purpose, you could really catch a fine or otherwise get detained. So, people are out there wearing the masks, and it's real. It's touching the entire planet. So, but thank you for having me again. Right now, I'm actually in Europe visiting my children. Luckily, I was able to make it out here. I have German residency, so that was the only way I was able to get in. Otherwise, you can't get into this part of the world. So, here I am, and thank you for having me.
Well, our condolences to you again, Ed. We've been lifting up you and the family in prayer and love. It's just a rough time, and it's been a lot that you've had to do, and we know you had to take care of family. So we were holding it down. It's hard, with you not here, but Mr. Russell did behave while you were going.
I did the best I could, Ed. I did the best I could. Now, let's just hope that you, Mr. Trump, don't keep you from coming back into this spot, right?
Yeah, I hope not. I got business.
You better knuckle up, get ready, kid, because I can see you calling me at the airport. Detention. That immigration law practice.
Well, let's hope that's not the case and you can get home safe and sound, but glad you're able to spend time with your children and be able to have those, special moments, right? Every day is a gift. And in this world, we have to take every moment. Yep, absolutely. So, hey, Richard, thank you for being here. Hey, Shawnee. I see our crew coming in. We have our loyal listeners for Speaking Legally. So we appreciate you. Thank you for sharing the broadcast. Thank you for being here and adding your commentary to our discussions each week. But I'll let Mr. Royce Russell, Esquire, greet our audience.
Well, I just want to say welcome, everybody. This is like a drive time TV type deal. You know what I mean? 1010s wins news. You got to get it. Come and get it. We ready to give it. And we here today to give knowledge to the community, answer questions if they're out there, and inform those as to what is going on behind the scenes, because so much is going on daily that we really don't get a chance to look at what's going on legally to some of our friends, and I mean friends and fans, like those that are in the starlights are entertainers, and what is going on practically. And I think today is going to be the first time that we're actually going to have a guest on our show. Am I correct? The first time we're going to have a guest on our show.
It's the first time we're having a guest on our show, and we're excited. So this is the anniversary of some more upgrades to Speaking Legally. Hey, Sonia, great to see you. So last week we talked about patent racism, on what happens with inventions and such that people of color are still dealing with in 2020. And the fact that it's not new, that there's been cases before and issues prior, and we talked through quite a bit last week on just some of the things that culturally we need to be aware of. So we thought that it would be great to bring a guest on who we actually spoke about last week with his product, and I'll let Mr. Russell introduce him.
Yeah, so we have the founder, the creator, the one and only Mr. Tim Talley. I can go through his resume, but it's plentiful. This is not his first time in the rodeo show. He developed a company called Borger Athletic. He developed a company called Rim Dweller. He is marketing savant out there in the world. You know, he'll speak to his background, but I'm glad to have him here today because when we talk about speaking legally, we talk about bringing the culture and the legal aspect of what we do on a daily basis and to educate and inform our community. And as we talked last week, we talked about patent infringement. And here's a person clearly of color, Mr. Tim Talley, that was able to utilize the cultural part of what he has and where we are in this day and time and use the legal part to be able to become, well, I'll let him tell you. I'm going to say successful, but I'll let him tell you how he became successful. Tim, why don't you give us a little play on what ULace is all about, a little combo about you, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, how you doing, everybody? My name's Tim Talley, founder of ULace. I created ULace in 2008. It was a way of people expressing themselves in color on sneakers. My product turns lace-up sneakers into slip-ons that are quick and easy to put on, take off. But the modular nature of the product means you can do things like this, where every lace can be a different color. Each of these is a separate lace segment. So for those that are interested in the kind of fashion of it all, you can, take a pair of sneakers and really turn one pair of sneakers into literally millions of pairs of sneakers with, packs of our product. And so, I came up with the idea while doing some trend spotting in Japan and just came back and pushed it. We've been selling this product for 12 years now.
And let me just interrupt, Stacey. I think if you look on your email, I know you're the graphic designer and you can put things up. You'll see some things that Tim has sent you that we can talk through. We had the article last week. So Tim, how did you find out that someone or company was infringing?
Kind of the worst way ever, right? We're out advertising, trying to sell our product, Facebook marketing, and we're on Amazon, but we don't have a lot of our product on Amazon. But consumers were literally coming onto our page saying, "Oh, I bought this so much cheaper at Walmart," or "I bought this exact same product for $4 at Amazon." And I'm like, "No, we don't have, our product isn't out there at that price." So, very quickly you go and you just go and check and you find this other stuff out there.
And what was the first thing you did once you found that someone was infringing on your product?
I can't say that on camera. I can't say what I did, but or what I said. But no, of course, the first thing is, call you as well as call to our patent attorneys and say, "Yo, we got to stop this," right? And and then you just, you just upset, right? Because literally people have their hands in your pocket, right? And they're causing confusion in the marketplace, and they're literally stealing from you.
So this is the point that we've always talked about on Speaking Legally. We talk about having an attorney on retainer, right? And what does that mean? Does that mean putting money down? Does that mean having a relationship? ULace, the entity that it is, they have attorneys for which they do certain things. They do the patent work. That is a business relationship. Understood. Need to put that retainer down. But Tim Talley, the individual, also has people within his network that are attorneys that he has relationships with, that they are quote unquote on retainer, no money down. So when situations like this happen, he's not running and looking. It's easy to say, "I'm going to call this person. I'm going to call that person. I'm going to call Royce Russell or Ed Pichardo. Let's strategize on how we do how we try to defeat, this what we call atrocity, in the patent."
And the odd thing too is that even when you have, we have some of the best patent attorneys out there, right? The folks that we work with, they've been in this business for 140 years or some ridiculous amount of time, right? But they're also looking at the legal side from their point, right? You can only be but so aggressive with people that are infringing on patents and things like that. I mean, there's all this stuff that can come back on the other side. So, sometimes attorneys are also a little bit timid about what they're willing to do. And, then those letters, sometimes those letters get pretty expensive too. So, we had the patent attorneys actually go after these guys for months, and they just kind of blew it all off. I think they just assumed, a lot of times people say a patent's worth how much money you're willing to spend to defend it, right? And big multinationals just have the assumption that, these guys, they probably don't have any money. They probably can't defend this if they try. And it's pretty much, it's not the most far-fetched thing, right?
No,
our guys told us if we wanted to pursue this truly legally, that they were going to send us a retainer bill for $75,000 just to get going.
Stacey, if you can, I think Tim, didn't you send her some pictures of ULace and what
Let's see, we'll pull it up, but you have some there. You have it right on your. I see behind you.
I mean, yeah, we have packages of product. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So let's just show it. And then I'll see.
I mean,
this is our. I can pull up something.
This is Kiddo's product. This is our Slims product. For adults. I mean, just look, and these are types of things you can do. You can take a pair of sneakers and you can make them as laid back or tricked out as you want.
Now, Tim.
So show us how you put it on.
Pardon me.
Oh,
I was going to ask. How you doing, Tim? This is Ed Pichardo.
Yeah.
What did you have to do in terms of like some of the information that you had to provide these attorneys so that they could effectively advocate on your behalf once you discovered what was going on?
I mean, first thing you got to do is literally support these folks by literally going out and buying their product, right? They want to physically see it and touch it to make sure that based upon the patents that we filed in our product, that product truly is infringing. So you actually have to go out and spend your money to buy their product.
Now, did you have a issue with any of this? Because I know sometimes, as an attorney, you get into this issue sometimes with clients where you tell them, well, listen, this is what I need you to do in terms of doing a little bit of legwork. And they're like, well, nah, you should be doing that. I mean, how did you feel about that?
Listen, this is my company, right? I'm protecting my own interest, right? So if that means I got to do some legwork, I mean, look, I'm sure they would have done legwork for me. They've said, look, we got a guy, that we pay $250 an hour. He'll go do this stuff for you. I mean, we'll do whatever you want. Whatever you wanted to pay for, we'll do it, right? So for me to just go and buy the stuff and then forward it to them so that they have it so that they can actually try to build the case. For me, I don't need to buy the stuff. I can just see it. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years. I created this product category. The modular no-tie lace did not exist until I invented it. Now there's, 50 companies out there selling, stuff that's similar. Nothing, we have a very unique kind of product positioning. So, the two guys that we shut down 2 infringers this past month.
And we shut them down hard. I mean, not just shut them down. I just want you to understand, it wasn't just a shutdown with just like, here go the letter, please stop, right? Because we've done that before, and I'm going to use the word we because I'm going to be transparent. Tim and I, we go back to another company way back when, and I'm there for a reason, and he's there for a reason. I take care of the legal, he take care of damn near everything else, right? And so, when we see someone stepping on the toes, the first thing I'm looking to do is to throw the blows. So, step on the toes, you got to throw the blows. So that's what we did. We immediately went head on. Like we did the nice guy routine. We did what we call the right legal thing, certified letter, the elitist of law firms that deal with patent and trademark. But now it seemed like these guys still didn't want to form the line. Or somebody didn't send the mail off to the right person. So when Tim alerted me to this again, we knew that we had to go in a different route. And part of that route is, and we'll talk more about it, was to make sure we go in the social media route. But I think our letter to them was pretty much straightforward and to the point that you need to get your act together.
Yeah. I mean, we wrote that letter and it was plain English. I mean, I crafted it, sent it to Royce, and then had Royce make sure that any parts of legal stuff that needed to be a part of that letter.
Tim, thank you.
I'm sorry, were you saying something, Stacy? You're a little frozen there. So again, Tim, what
So
you saying?
Tim, thank you again for being on the show. And can you hear me now?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Okay, so Tim, thank you again for being on the show. And people that are watching, they might have an invention. You know, I've seen people do all sorts of unique things with Timberlands and, you know, with different ideas for the market. How did you start the process? What made you, when you came back from Japan, decide that I'm going to invent and create a patent for this? What would you say to someone who's watching and they're interested in doing what you did? It might not be ULace, but they might have a unique spin on a product that they would like to produce.
Well, first of all, I've been doing this for a long time. I did it for, you know, for other companies. I had 3 patents or 4 before I went on my own. Now I'm up to 8 patents. So I've got 4 on my own. I had 3 for other people. You know, me, I just, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I started being an entrepreneur when I was a sophomore in high school. So for me, just come back and realize that there was an opportunity. I also had the means, right? And that's the one thing to do it. I had the cash in the bank to go ahead and like literally pursue it, right? And so I know for a lot of people, they're like, well, how do I, you know, I don't even have any money or I don't have this, but I just tell people, look, you just got to start, right? You got to do something. And there's this kind of rule of thumb about ideas. And they say, look, for anybody that has an idea somewhere in the world, 14,999 people have the same idea. So now you got 15,000 people. Of those 15,000, they say only 1,500 will ever really think about the idea again. And of those 1,500, only 150 will write the idea down. And of those 150, 15 of those people will like really kind of like think about it and start figuring some stuff out. But only one of those 15 people will actually really move to try to turn that into a product. And so I would argue that there's probably a bunch of your guests watching right now who've had an idea, didn't do anything, and then 9 months later they see a billboard and they look at their friend in the car and go, remember I told you about that? Remember I had that idea? Well, that means that they were in the 15,000 that didn't push it all the way. So the point of that story, and they've done research on this, is that of the 15,000 people, if you have an idea and if you push and just keep pushing, the other folks are going to keep falling off. And it just, chances are that that one person that makes it happen is going to be you, because everybody else is going to fall off. So you just got to keep pushing.
You know, that's inspiration. I think that's inspirational that you give that type of advice, because now we're in a place and time where with COVID and the recreation of the job market and the recreation of how we do business is going to create opportunities for those to go out on their own. And whether they want to or whether they're forced to, the reality is that they may have to. Yeah. And one of the things that people always talk about is resources. And I'm not afraid to tell, you know, our viewers that with you and I, a lot of times we had to find what we call sweat equity. And I'll define that for folks. That is when other folks give their talents just for the sweat of being involved in something that can be very prosperous or something that's very meaningful in society, and therefore they get equity. And what is equity? Equity can be monetary. Equity can be monetary and compensation in the future. Equity could be just being on the right side of the ledger. And so you're going to bump into those type of obstacles, and the people that you want to create relationships with are those that buy into your idea and willing to give sweat equity. And I must say, you know, in meeting Tim and having an understanding of what sweat equity is and developing that has transcended into my practice of law in other areas. If I represent you and you don't have skin in the game, you can forget it. You need to go to another attorney, because that's that sweat equity. Hey, if you don't want to go do the things that I'm asking you to do, and you're going to just drop everything at my doorstep and say, here it is, Mr. Russell, complete this for me, then we're going to have a problem, because you got to put the sweat and the equity in to get me to where I need to go. So oftentimes, Tim and I will have a conversation. I'm like, you need this, this, and this. You bring that back, we codify it, and we make it happen. And then the other times, maybe I'm too legal on what we want to say. And he's like, oh, hold on. Let's don't get too legal. Let's break it down a different way. And I think in this particular instance, the cultural and the legal both met, and we were successful.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Tim, I'm very honored to hear your story. You know, I'm very inspired. Actually, earlier this year, I read Dapper Dan's book. I don't know if you
Yeah, I read it.
read that
Absolutely.
book, and you know that is kind of I consider it kind of a classic in terms of what we're talking about here and the perils in that apparel industry and having a unique idea, and even if you pursue it, if you don't do it the right way, what can happen to your dream? Am I correct?
Yeah, it's funny because I was going to say,
That actually.
I was going to say that, I get to hustle. I like when people hustle, but you kind of got to do it the right way because, I mean, if a big company wants to come at you for trademark and patent infringement, they can bankrupt it. They can bankrupt a small person, right? So I just tell people do it the right way. I mean, I know a lot of people are out here making like COVID masks and throwing, NFL and NBA logos on it and Disney logos. And maybe Disney won't come after you because you're small, but if they decide to come after you and you've been on Facebook promoting all this stuff, you got a problem.
Well, let's talk about the oh wow, look at the product. I did see a picture of that. That was great, Stacy. Let's talk about the infringer and let's talk about this case. Let's get to it so our listeners can understand what exactly happened, play by play, because I think that's important.
I mean, clearly the infringer, felt that, saw the opportunity and thought, hey, this is something that we can come in and just make some quick money off of. Whether they looked at the patents or searched patents, but clearly they knew who we were because not only did they take the product, they actually stole artwork from us, right? So the artwork on the back of their packaging was stuff that we had designed and developed back in 2008. So clearly they knew that there was something, clearly they knew they were stepping on some toes, right? But I guess they assumed, hey, small company, we'll just take what we want, right? I mean, this goes back to the whole thing about the billions that were stolen from Black inventors back to the beginning of time in the U.S., right? I mean, the transfer of wealth goes into the tens of billions in today's dollars, likely, So these guys were infringing. We found it. We went after them, the big law firm route, and they just kind of blew it off, right? And so it came to a point where I said, look, I can't just sit back because if you don't defend your patents and your IP, if you don't defend your trademarks, and you literally can lose them, right? If you allow your IP to become just everybody's using it and you're not doing anything, then people could say, hey, they don't care about it. So we had to do something. And given the climate right now, that was where the idea came. Let's go social media. We'll craft our own letter. We'll bring in a bunch of historical context to it about, who we are, how I funded this business and we funded this business out of our pockets, how we built something that has value. And now here you come to try to take that value away from it. It's like, it's like Groundhog Day. It's deja vu all over again, right? Like the same thing happening. Here we are, but now I can actually get a patent. Back in the day, I couldn't even apply for a patent because I wasn't considered human. But now I can get a patent, and you still don't care about my rights as a patent holder, and you think you can just take what you want. So, that's where the whole social media thing came in. I have a whole bunch of friends, you have a whole bunch of friends, and so we went out and basically we wrote these guys, and after getting no response, we said, okay, now you got to deal with it the other way, and so. We put them out. We put it out on social. We put it out on Instagram. We put it out on Facebook. We put it out on Twitter. And we told our friends to pass it on to their friends and tell everybody not just to boycott that, not to just not buy that infringing product, but not to buy anything that the infringer RG Berry at the time that we, Deer Foams and Bagalini and a bunch of other brands. And then we actually said to the retailers that were selling it, Don't shop there. Don't shop on Amazon. Don't shop at Macy's. Eventually, when people start seeing their name come up in hashtags, and I know for a fact that this came up in meetings that were being had, like, oh my God, these people are coming after us, telling people to stop buying our products.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there because I want to lead up to that point. So, and I want to slow it down just a little bit, as Dr. Stacy Grant always says. Let's slow it down for the listeners out there. So let's slow it down for the listeners out there. One thing I've heard you say, which we need to recognize as a culture, we're always on Instagram. We're always on some social media. And hearing you speak about this situation, it fortifies, amplifies, highlights the fact that social media can be our friend if we use it the right way. And culturally, if we come together and do it the right way and have meaning. And your two friends tell my two friends tell some other two friends, even if you don't have a stake, even if you don't even understand what ULace is, you don't even own a pair of sneakers, you know the person that's putting that information out, you know that something wrong is going on, you know that there's a theft, there's a crime being committed. And when you put that information out and it gets in our community, it's like a wildfire. And I think that social media, that cultural pressure, given what we're talking about now with social injustice, given what we're talking about, the stealing of a history, stealing of ideas, stealing of lives, whether it is with police brutality or whether it's in corporate America, stealing of dreams, stealing of wealth, whether we're talking about Tulsa and Oklahoma and Black Wall Street and bankers and things of that nature. It all goes in one category. And I think a lot of people want to kind of departmentalize. This is not that. This is over here. I didn't do it. You know, you're talking about my grandfather. You're talking about my uncle. You're not talking about me. And I think when we look at what happened here in reference to, you know, Happy Feet, RJ, whatever, trying to infringe on a product designed, developed, nurtured, successful overseas and domestically, ULace, and a guy who's been on Shark Tank, you know what I mean? Like, been on Shark Tank, had investments from Shark Tank. We ain't talking about a guy that's just kicking a can. I don't know what made them think that would go over well, except for some other stereotypes that we could talk about. But we'll save that for another day. To think that this can happen. So I'm glad that the social media and the culturalism came into play. But one of the things that you mentioned that is important, I would like for you to talk about this, is I'm going to cast it as the 6 degrees of separation, how Black folks are everywhere, and the pressure of names, right? The pressures of name. Macy's don't like to see their name. You know, Walmart doesn't like to see their name. Amazon didn't like to see their name. So one, let's talk about the 6 degrees of separation as to what ultimately happened in reference to what's going on. And then let's talk about Amazon. Let's talk about what happened there, because I think a lot of people think social pressure is just about social pressure. It doesn't mean that it can lead into anything that is greater than that. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Funny thing was, so, you know, we were doing the whole social media thing. And then last Friday, you know, finally we got a letter from the attorneys for, and it wasn't R.G. Berry, it was Remington, and they were the patent attorneys. And they were like, hey, you know, it's kind of funny how it was worded, because basically they worded it in such a way to kind of take away, to minimize risk to them. They were like, oh, we just recently bought these products from this other company. We, you know, with COVID, everybody's working separately. We didn't really know what was going on. And oh, and by the way, we didn't even really look at the patents deeply. We just took your word for it and just kind of yanked everything down, right? I mean, I don't know any attorneys that, you know, get paid that just, you know, do stuff because somebody says it, right? But that was their
Black person.
You know, that was their angle. But again, I understood it immediately. It was their way of kind of minimizing their liability. They didn't necessarily admit to it all, right? They just, oh, well, we just took it all down, which is fine with me in a sense, right? But then the other day, I get an email, a text message from a friend. Hadn't talked to this person in quite a while, but you know, when I was living in New York, we used to hang out, and they were like, "Hey, we got to talk, right? Because I'm the head of marketing for this company, and you killing me." And they're like, your product, your name and your product came up in this meeting. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I know this person, right? Oh, sorry. And they're like, I know this person. And they were like, she was like, and she wasn't really trying to pressure me, but she was like, yo, you killing us. And I'm like, yeah, sorry. But y'all didn't write me back. It was like Bernie Mac, I called you, but you didn't call me back. Right.
That's
So
right.
I was like, yeah. I was like, we called, you didn't call us back. So we had to do what we had to do. And she was like, no, I understand that. But it's like, the funny thing was, as small as this world, big as the world is small, because that social media stuff was getting around, and it came up in that meeting, and they were like, yo, this brand is killing us. They're like telling people to not buy our stuff. And so it works. I mean, it and it's, then you find out how really small the world is. In terms of, the people that are out there. And, she was like, well, look, first of all, I heard your name come up. So you got name checked, and I had to kind of, step up. But in the end, that just validates the fact that getting on social was certainly the right thing to do. I mean, this is something that wouldn't have been available to people probably 5-6 years ago, to really kind of go at it from a social standpoint. And the only thing I would warn somebody is, like, make sure your ducks are in a row. Right. Because you can get sued for slander, right? You have to know that your case is legit. Right. I knew 100% that our case was legit. I knew that our patents covered what these guys were doing, and I knew that they were infringing on us. And so I had all confidence to go out and just say these guys are thieves, to bring in all of the kind of like slave reference and the theft reference and all of the patent racism references. I was comfortable doing that, but you can't be half baked and kind of do this, because if we were wrong, and kind of like, you get sued for libel, like somebody could put you out of business. So you have to make sure your ducks are in a row. And
speaking to the term libel, what we're saying here is that you can't lie, right? You have to be accurate. You can't slander someone and say something that's an untruth when you're putting it out to a public, right? You might be able to say something that's not true to another coworker in a certain environment. That's not necessarily slander or libel. But when you put it out to a third party, a third entity that is not in the normal course of business, then you're walking on real thin lines. So once again, it takes nothing but to make a phone call to an attorney or two and try to figure that out before you go leaping out there. But as Tim said, we had that well covered. And so off with their heads. Off with their heads.
It was amazing that you guys used that ultimate threat of boycott against these larger retailers to kind of, reach your objective. I'm in the government relations field somewhat, and a lot of times when you want somebody to do something, you kind of try to strategize, well, what pressure tactics can we use if we can't get at the direct target to make that target behave in a manner in which we need them to. And it sounds like you guys decided, well, let's do the social media. Let's also focus on the retailers that are pushing this product and pressure those retailers, because ultimately they're the ones that ultimately are responsible for, in many ways, for getting the product out to the consumers. Because it sounds like these companies weren't getting as many direct sales as they were through these retailers. Am I correct?
We don't know exactly, but clearly they were in those retailers. But the other part about the retailers was you couldn't blindside them. Again, that's another issue from a legal standpoint. We wrote letters to all of the CEOs of those retailers too.
Put them on notice.
So we basically said to them, hey, you're on notice too. This is a patent infringing product, and you're helping these people break the law and infringe on our patents. So before we told people to boycott Macy's and Amazon, we made sure all of them were on notice that what they were doing was wrong. And we told them, you should just here's our patents, read the patents, have your people look at it, take this product down. But none of them took it down. And so then we said, okay, fine, at least you're on notice. So now we will go on and do the next thing, which is tell people to stop shopping at your store.
And
But
not only putting them on notice, we send them samples. We like here are consumers that are saying they bought it from A. Here it is up on your website.
Yeah.
Put the proof in the pudding so they can never say, well, you didn't contact us. We just don't take any sentence or statement that is made out in the public as it being for true. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here's the proof in the pudding. Now what you want to do. And after that, now we can go street. We can do what we got to do, you know?
And we probably overdid it in a sense that, you know, I went back and found articles that were written about us in dated magazines that go back to 2008 and 2009. And we took articles about ULace saying, hey, this company's starting a whole new revolution with these laces we've never seen before. And we just said, look, let these guys show you when they came up with their product. Here's our patents. Here's articles written about the product from 2008 and 2009. Here's stuff from social media, people saying that they bought our product in your store, but we don't sell our product in your store. So there's clearly confusion. There's clearly infringement. Yeah, we kind of overdid it. That was a lot of the sweat equity that we put into it.
Yeah, well, you know, safe than sorry.
Absolutely safe to sorry, but the lesson for when we talk about where the legal meets the culturally, we need to know how to protect ourselves, which means having all our houses in order per se. So you just made a great point. If you didn't have all of your due diligence done, if you didn't put them on notice, if you didn't go through all the steps, it could have exposed you and bankrupt your business. So a lot of us have these smaller operations in our communities, and we know due to COVID-19, some of our small businesses may never come back. But this is a bigger and broader lesson to always have an attorney, an accountant, all the professionals at your disposal for your business. So when situations like this arise, you know how to go after people who might be infringing on trademark, patent, anything that you own. And it's important to own our own stuff. And that's a great segue into the next part of our conversation. When we talk about owning and the fact that you were able to use slavery references, you were able to talk about what was stolen from us. There's folks out there who have access and opportunities to various things. And there's a big, bold statement that came out. Somebody quoted one of our dear brothers, Byron Allen. And
yes.
He's talking about, you know, what he wants to own. And I think it's fitting that we add this to the conversation because this speaks culturally about how we have to have a wealth mindset, which means we just don't keep using what other people have. We start creating our own, owning our own, so that we can tell our own stories. We can create our own narratives. We can produce products like ULace and put ourselves in a position where we're actually creating generational wealth because somebody was one of the 15 who actually moved on the idea, as Tim said, and executed. So when we talk about how we move forward as a community, especially in this climate, let's look at the lessons that are being learned and let's see how we can bring some of this into our day-to-day. So let
me just add one thing before we move on to Byron Allen. And I think it's important that Tim gets a chance to express this. We talked once about the 6 degrees of separation, right? And so he had a friend that was at the company, saw his name, exposed it, and then, you know, kind of went on to have that internal pressure put on the company to do the right thing. And so that's what I mean by infiltration, right? So we talk about, you know, not being a victim, right? You can always change things from the outside. You need people in the inside, right? Everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur. Some people are meant to work corporate America. But while you're there, you need to utilize and broaden your shoulders and create a space for yourself so people feel like we have someone inside. And I think people shy away from what I'm going to call the revolutionary type of talk, standing up for themselves, being about themselves, because when we do that, then other people label it, oh, now you're not about anything else. Like, you know, you can't be pro-Black and pro everything else. You just got to be pro-Black and that's it. And the reason why I bring that up, because Tim, if you can, before we go on to Byron Allen's legal segment, what happened with Amazon? Because they were one of the companies that we targeted for selling this product. What came out of that for you?
Well, I guess for Amazon, the whole thing with them was that they asked me to do some stuff for them, kind of a talk for them. But I mean, we got the product off of Amazon, but now, now Amazon is kind of reaching out to us and trying to help us figure out how to like really kind of expand ourselves on that platform and actually kind of, grow the business. So, um, Amazon had reached out to me on another issue, asking me to talk to them a little bit about some of the stuff with BLM. It's kind of odd, right? But um, that was kind of one of the ways we were trying to get to Amazon to try to get them to kind of put pressure and remove that product. But then, we kind of got it done on our own for the most part. But now Amazon is, reaching back to us about some other things. So again, it's you kind of got to you have to assert yourself. You have to do it in a manner that that comes across as professional, and you have your act together, and you have your facts right. I mean, just screaming and yelling doesn't do much, right? It's about knowing the facts and being able to say, look, here's the facts, right? The facts are I've got patents. The facts are we created this. The facts are, historical facts. This is the amount of money that's been stolen from Black entrepreneurs over the course of time. Why are you participating in, this kind of new modern, racism of patents, And so I think when you pull people by the coattail and you do it intelligently and with facts, not just screaming and yelling, true facts, then people have no choice but to listen.
Point well taken. Point well taken.
Absolutely. And that's impressive as well when we talk about the fact that now they're turning to you as an expert, as a thought leader, as someone who can influence their bottom line. So it ended up turning out into a teachable moment for them to admit wrong for their mistake, but now make good on the fact that they should have done their homework and their research and potentially now expand ULACE to their platform. So that is awesome. Congratulations, Tim. And thank you for coming on to talk live about your story, because I see so many times in our local communities, people have great products, great ideas, but they don't protect it. And if they don't protect it, someone can steal it, use it, and there's no recourse. So let that be the lesson for everybody when it comes to someone you know and love, or maybe it's you yourself that you're creating or building. Take the time to invest the money with an attorney that can help you protect your intellectual property, your patent, your invention. It's worth it in the long run, because if you have a great item, a great service, great product, whatever you're protecting, you want to make sure you're protecting that for your future generations. We're just a part of the journey. We want to make sure that our children's children's children are able to benefit from the things that we've done. So with that being said, now we're going to switch gears in the same vein of owning our own. I'm just curious to hear from the three of you. What do you think about Byron Allen making such a bold statement that I'd love to own CNN and I will?
Well, I don't put anything past him. That's for sure. I mean, I believe he owns. Ed, correct me. He owns the weather station already, right?
Yeah, he owns the Weather Channel already. Yeah,
the Weather Channel. So Byron Allen's I've always been a fan of his. He's doing it and doing it right. He is climbing up the ladder legally. He had a case before the Supreme Court as to, how cable companies are monopolizing the marketplace and how Black folks can't get in, and giving them one or two TV shows or series on a network is not enough. So I believe in what he says. He's going to own it one day. I don't put anything past this brother.
Well, if you also look at local ownership of affiliates, right? A lot of news is being force-fed to people, and it's very kind of very biased news, or it's slanted one direction or another, because big media conglomerates are going around buying hundreds and hundreds of kind of network affiliates, and then they're basically saying, look, I don't care, you have to run this segment, you have to run this segment, you have to run this segment. And so a lot of people are being force-fed what's not necessarily news, but propaganda. So if you want to make sure that people have access to not just being force-fed propaganda, you're going to have, some folks with that can get news out in a wide manner than what's happening now. Because right now, there's probably 4 or 5 conglomerates that are controlling almost every network affiliate, and they're force-feeding propaganda into into those markets.
And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, what Byron Allen's fight speaks to many things. I mean, I found out about Byron Allen's case only because a brother that I knew who normally sends me kind of like alternative media pieces or things that are outside of the regular loop. He sent me an interview piece, and when I looked at it, I said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this was going on." And then I started disseminating it to some of my friends because he was fighting two giant media conglomerates. I think one of them was Charter Communications, and the other, whoever owns NBC Universal, and so they were, I think, purposely, and I'm not going to say I know this for sure, but it seemed to me like there was a notorious absence of article or media attention being paid to his case. And that goes back to the fact of who controls the stations, who controls the media, who controls the images that get broadcast. And that's exactly what Byron Allen is kind of speaking to when you hear his anything he says when it comes to his case and what he's trying to do. He has an actual, I believe, an online organ called the Griot. The Griot. He kind of puts out himself, or he puts out several articles that should be of interest to all people of color in the United States and throughout the world on certain items. And I try to faithfully read it whenever it comes to me by way of my Gmail. But what Byron Allen's doing is tremendous because he's basically fighting that last fight of the civil rights struggle, which was that economic justice component. We were able to get the right to sit at the table, but not necessarily have the economic ability to buy what's on the menu. And this media thing is a whole nother ball game to begin with. I mean, you got the Bob Johnsons, you got the other sister who owns TV One and stuff, but what Byron is talking about is also just on a whole, another level, because, he also talks about the importance of participating in these local media markets, which is big. We don't all live in the New York Cities and Chicago's and LA's. We live in a lot of smaller cities, and there's a lot of media content going on there that's of value, because when you own one of these channels, you are able to sell commercial space and time, and that's money, and that's dollars that in many cases leaves our community, because they're advertising to us. We're buying the products, but we're not really benefiting. That money isn't turning over in our community. And it's beautiful when you're watching a channel owned by one of your own, that's going to make money off of that advertising that you're looking at and saying, okay, I want to, go ahead and buy that product. So, Byron Allen is basic, he's a hero right now to me in terms of what he's, trying to do.
And I think it's going to come a time and point where we're going to dedicate a segment to talk about the legal challenges that he faced in order to try to do what he's trying to do. But in highlight, we talk about Byron Allen. There's a client that I'm working with, and we have an ongoing relationship. I met him at a funeral of one of my frat brothers, and he said, "Hey, look, I'm coming out with this film. I need some help with it. What can we do to push it?" And I've been helping him as much as I can with the people that I know and finding investors and doing stuff of that nature. And, we struck out a lot, but he's been very thankful. And he gave me a call just yesterday. Guess who bought the rights to the film? Byron Allen, the Gyro. They bought it. It's called Pressure.
Byron Allen. Wow.
It'll be out in August 11th. It hits the marketplace. So now this brother, who's a film director, has now made his first purchase, his first film bought by, someone that's well respected. And so now he'll be able to leverage that to the other networks. But then we had a conversation, well, why you want to do that? Here's a brother that gave you the opportunity to show your stuff. Maybe you don't want to leverage it and go to HBO or go to some other station. Maybe you want to stay there and help build with him. So we need to think about that, think about how we stay loyal to those that have been loyal to us as we move and shake in this new America.
Absolutely. And I agree. You know, I'm a big Byron Allen fan for multiple reasons, and the circle keeps closing in on my degrees of separation from him. But we need Byron Allens. We need people who own networks that can run Speaking Legally or any of our shows that tell our story, that help get information to our people. So more power to him. And as we wrap up, in the vein of talking about all of these entertainment-based cultural, legal, today, let's wrap it up with the sisters. Had to bring the sisters in. So Monique wins major victory in discrimination lawsuit against Netflix. What say you about this?
Well, you know, whenever you bring a lawsuit, the fact that you brought it is always big news. And then what becomes big news after that is the fact that it got dismissed, right? So you brought it and it got dismissed. So the obstacle she was able to overcome was that, and whenever you're suing, the big companies are always going to do what they call a summary judgment motion. And what a summary judgment motion is basically asking the court by law, if you just look at the law, that this person does not have a cause of action, does not have a case, should not even be in the courtroom. And usually, most people are not paid attention to until you win the summary judgment motion. One is filed to knock you out of court. Once you win that, and the judge says, no, there's law here. By law, this person has a case. That's when everybody starts to get nervous, because now you have a judge that basically has supported your claim, hasn't said you won, but says and stated that you have a valid claim, you should be here, and the jury should hear it.
And now you have the right to discovery. Now you have the right to seek documents and deposition testimony. And then that's when, you know, a lot of, you know, defendants in the case, if you're bringing the lawsuit, you're the plaintiff, the other side is the defendant. Now defendants start saying, well, wait a minute, let's start getting possibly into some settlement talks and see if we can resolve this matter most of the time.
And that's when the check comes. I remember a long time ago, his trademark infringement case, Nike infringed on a guy named Joe Hammond. Everybody out there, when you get a chance, just put the name Joe, J-O Hammond, Hammond, and they spelled it all wrong. But go look it up. He's world-renowned basketball player. Back in the day, he was the only guy that the LA Lakers and any NBA team went to his hometown, which was New York City, so he could try out to become an NBA player. Now, teams were flying to New York City to watch this guy play so he could become an NBA player, and he turned that down to do other things in the community, rightfully or wrongfully. He turned that down. But when Nike used his name, trademark infringement, until we won the summary judgment motion in court, everything else was just background noise. And it's similar to what Tim Talley was saying. Until you can prove that you have a case, all of it is background noise. But as soon as you start putting pieces together and you start putting the puzzle together and you start to show, all right, this is the puzzle now. We only need a piece over here and a piece over there. And soon it's going to be put together. Until then, no one's going to hear you. Once you put that puzzle together and it looks like you can start seeing what it is. You can see that it says Black Lives, and you see the M, and you see the A, and you see the T. You're like, well, damn, there's only a T and E. I know they don't say Black Lives Mattress. I know it's going to say Black Lives. We get real close. We get real close to those letters at the end, and then everybody wants to come to the table, and they want to, oh, well, don't put that other T down there, brother. You know, and at that point, you're like, no, the other T is going down. And that's when you need counseling and advice to say, you know what, maybe I'm not going to put the other T and the E and the R. Let's just see where we are. But in Monique's case, that's what's happening. Byron Allen, that's what happened for Joe Hammond. That rode us to the way of victory. And in Tim Talley's case with Ulace, that's the same horse that kicked in the door, waving the 4-4s. You know, that's what happened.
Oh boy.
And Royce is exactly right, because that's what happened in that Byron Allen case. The big issue was whether or not he should be able to go beyond that summary judgment stage in his lawsuits. And the big arguments were the standards that the court was looking at as to whether or not he could go beyond and defeat the other side's summary judgment motion for dismissal. So, and, you know, we can talk about that in another show, the particular details behind that, keeping in mind that he was invoking a law that was a civil rights era law, giving us the right to be able to contract without discrimination. So, this is, these are very important topics for the community to pay attention to, for sure.
Absolutely. And before we start winding down with closing comments, Tim, you want to tell everybody where they can officially get ULACE and be able to contribute to the economy of your Black-owned business?
I tell you one thing, I need to get a ULACE hat though. I need to get that right up. You need to just put that in the bag real quick. You know, I like red, but I'll go with white. Put it in the bag, hook it up.
Yeah. Okay. We're at www. The letter U and then a dash and then the word lace. u-lace.com. So that's our online, and every color we make, everything from our new tie-dye laces to our printed Scylla prints to our classic kiddos and slims, everything is there. We have over 60 colors of classic. So pretty much any color you're trying to hook up with or make, I mean, we have it. I mean, we have the largest color range of any lace brand in the world.
Well, I think Dr. Grant wants to make sure that you have blue and white so she can have her blue and white Zeta colors in the sneakers. I think that's what you
have probably 6 blues and white is only white.
White is only white. White ain't no color. You tell me white ain't no color? All right. Let's stop the show.
We do have canvas for when white's just too white. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes white's just too white.
Watch yourself.
Sometimes white is just too white, my brother.
Well, thank you, Tim. We appreciate you coming on today to share your story in person, and we're happy that you were able to get justice for your patent. And that's the lesson to everyone. Make sure you contact and have an attorney on speed dial before you need one. You have 2 here. Yes, they specialize in criminal, civil, and immigration, but they also dabble in other parts of the law, like this trademark infringement that happened. But the point is, you have to know who to call before you need to call them. So whatever that looks like, if it's just starting the relationship, not every attorney is going to ask you for a financial retainer, because they understand that when you need them, that will take care of itself. But the fact that you can call them is important in our community so that we don't get wrong information and we don't have people taking advantage of us because we don't know the law and we don't know what our rights are. So you have RoyceRussellEsquire.com. You have law office of EdwardPichardo.com. 2 attorneys here every week for Speaking Legally, where the legal meets the cultural, to help you get your information from the ones who can actually litigate on your behalf, not the sidewalk attorneys that are in our communities. But over to you, gentlemen, for your closing remarks as we wind up today's show.
All right, Ed, why don't you go?
Well, listen, thank you, audience, for listening today. Ed Pichardo, 718-514-9099, www.lawofficeofedwardpichardo.com. Aquí para servir.
Woo. Get Mr. Talley.
Hey man, it makes me, what happened for us, man, made us think about that new gospel song I heard the other day. If you got all your stuff together, you can look at people and tell them, try Jesus, but don't try me. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we felt about it, man.
There's a lot to say behind that, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know, all I can say is that you can reach me where you can find me. Isn't that a riddle? Riddle that. You can reach me where you can find me. How about that? But I want to thank all our listeners and our viewers for today. We'll see you on the other side, as they say, right?
All right. Blessings.
Absolutely.
Woo!
Everybody good?
I guess that's it, right?
Stand by.
Well, you're teasing me, Mrs. DJ.
I know, it's just technology today, but it's all good. Just stand by. Well, the best made plans.
Well,
We're just going to end the show. We were trying to do a little fun stuff with our closeout, but for whatever reason, it is what it is. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be back same time, same.
all right, Mr. Charlie, you and I will catch up, right?
Yes,
okay.
Sir. All right, man.
Lesson 24.
Stacy, thank you.
Dr. Grant.